بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نرحب بكم أعزائي الأساتذة في هذه الندوة ضمن سلسلة الندوات التثقيفية اللي ينظمها المجلس العراقي لاعتماد التعليم الهندسي من أجل حقيقة نشر المعرفة بخصوص قضايا تهم التعليم الهندسي في مجال الاعتماد. اليوم راح يكون ضيفنا أحد الأساتذة الأعزاء من جامعة كومار، وراح يلقي علينا محاضرة عن الأساليب المبتكرة في مناهج التعليم وفي طرق التقييم، وراح يركز أيضا على تجربة جامعة كومار إن شاء الله. بس قبل ما نقدم الضيف والسيرة الذاتية له، نترك كلمة ترحيبية بالحضور يلقيها السيد رئيس المجلس الأستاذ الدكتور زياد سليمان. تفضل دكتور زياد.
شكرا دكتور. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الزميلات والزملاء الأفاضل، السلام عليكم. أرحب بكم في لقاء هذا اليوم والذي يأتي ضمن سلسلة لقاءات أسبوعية ينظمها المجلس العراقي لاعتماد التعليم الهندسي منذ منتصف العام الماضي أو حسب ما تسمح به الظروف. وأود أن أبين بأننا انطلاقا من إيماننا بدور جيل الشباب من أساتذة الجامعات في تطوير وتحديث طرائق التدريس، فإننا نمازج في نشاطاتنا بين دعوة أساتذة متمرسين وأساتذة شباب تدربوا على الوسائل الحديثة في التعليم. ويسرنا هذا اليوم جدا أن نستضيف أحدهم وهو السيد توان عبد الرزاق طاهر من جامعة كومار للعلوم والتكنولوجيا في السليمانية. أهلا وسهلا به وبكم، وأترك تعريف المحاضر وإدارة الجلسة إلى الزميل الفاضل الدكتور علي ناجي، فليتفضل.
شكرا دكتور زياد, and I will transfer the language to English. But you can have any comment or any question, you can use both languages. Let me introduce Mr. Tuan Abdul Razak Tahir is the Director of Quality Assurance and Accreditation Office at Komar University of Science and Technology at Suleimania, Iraq. He's also a PhD candidate in the field of Sustainable Development in Water Management. He finished his Master in Technology in Environmental Management from University of Malaya in Malaysia at 2012. Beside his area of specialty, he is a certified teacher trainer in the International Teacher Training Program at Ham University of Applied Sciences in Finland from 2018 to 2019. For the last 10 years, he was working on designing curricula, course syllabi in accordance with the requirements of international accreditation agencies, enhancing the quality of education and training many trainees on innovative pedagogy in many KRI University, Kurdistan Region University. Let me welcome again Mr. Tuana. And in fact, when we visited Komar University several months ago, we saw a lot of advancement and development in the methods of teaching from Mr. Tuana and other professors there. So I think we will get a lot of benefits from this webinar. Again, I just remind you to put your comments or questions on the chat box, or you can use the raise hand to ask directly Mr. Tuana. Mr. Tuana, you can start the webinar and the plan is yours.
Well, assalamu alaikum and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure and honor actually to be with you today. And my special thanks go to Professor Dr. Ziad and Professor Dr. Ali for this invitation. It's an honor indeed for me to be here for exchanging some ideas regarding innovative pedagogy and assessment tools. First of all, we just want to briefly actually explain why in Iraq and Kurdistan we need this kind of reform. And I am trying to briefly share in some of those examples that we have done it for the last 10 years in my university, Komar University of Science and Technology. So hopefully that one will be beneficial for the respected attendees and participants in this webinar. So first of all, probably we're asking why this pedagogical reform, why we need to start with doing this type of pedagogical reform. Perhaps that one is, we can say, slightly too late for us in the very, let's say, an era that the technology and any other type of learning methods are, let's say, developing very fast, and the advancement in many of the international universities quickly happening here and there. Probably we are behind of many of those top universities around the globe, but that one doesn't mean that we also shouldn't try our best to reach to this level and for having a better quality of education and learning at our university. So for the last few years, in fact, we realized that the current situation, the current new generation, probably they need to, let's say, equipped with many different kind of competences, skills, the one we call the 21st century skills and competences, since the challenge of the international markets are getting harder and harder, and the list of the qualification is getting higher for the graduates. So we need to actually prepare our graduates for these challenges. That's why if we are continuing with the same, let's say, traditional way of teaching, perhaps we are generating a generation of the type of the student that we call a traditional, let's say, graduates, unfortunately, without skills and knowledge are coming. And this is the case in Iraq, unfortunately, that every year we are having thousands of graduates here and there without let's say, gaining this type of skills and competences. So that one telling us, even the UNESCO, they already started United Nations under the, UNESCO and development, sustainable development program for 2030. They already started negotiating and discussing about there should be let's say, need for enhancement in the learning methods, and we need to have let's say, a different way that our students should be engaged involved in our learning process. That's what many countries, developed countries, they already started. And of course, they had a benefit for having an active citizens now in their country. When they are feeling responsibility towards their country, they are having a lot of solution for their problems. So this is the situation that we also, due to unrest policy, having a frequent war in Iraq for the last 30 years, we faced a lot of, let's say, challenges. So perhaps I'm saying always this is the right time for us to start again and building our education system, hopefully to have let's say, a great outcome for the near future in this country. I'm always giving the examples for the last, let's say, during 1970s, 80s, when Iraqi universities were leading many universities around the world, and their ranks were in the top universities in this region. But unfortunately, due to all these challenges, conflicts came to the country, we are now in a, let's say, in a rank that's unacceptable for all of us as an educator in this country. So our aim here in reforming pedagogy is how we are preparing this generation for all the new challenges we are having inside and outside the country. And as I told you, in United Nations Development Program, they already started having 17 goals, the one they call it SG 17. One of the main goals inside that one is they are talking about quality education. And they are very much focusing on how the countries should take steps towards having a better quality of education. Of course, we should start from the basic education, then we come to the high education. And I'm always telling the people in our, let's say, country, in Ministry of Higher Education in Kurdistan and Iraq, even they visited us for the last few years 2 times. We always discussing these steps that we need to start this reform from the basic education, because when they come to the university, probably that age will be too late for us to do something with them, but still we are struggling with it. But of course, it's better to establish this link and this reform from the basic education. And inside this quality of education, one of the very important points that are missed, we can say missed for long years in our country, unfortunately, is lifelong learning process. This is one of the framework in sustainable development, when our students, they believe whatever they learn inside the class has a very strong link with the real life problems and situations. So by this way, when they graduate, they do not think that whatever the topics, the notes, the courses they took inside their classes were useless. Unfortunately, now majority of our students always are asking why I should take this course, why I should take that course, what's the use for me? When I graduate, I may never ever use this type of notes. This is one of the challenges we are having in majority of the universities. So we need to change this, let's say, problem. And here we need to, again, reform our learning and quality of teaching in a way that students will realize whatever they learn inside the class has a very strong link with the problems outside in the real life, and they can solve this problem later. That's what we call it lifelong learning. This is required under the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Beside that one, if you look at the Eurostat report in 2015, in Eurostat statistic explaining one of the very, let's say, good indicator for quality of life, unfortunately, in majority of the underdeveloped countries, even some developing countries, when you are talking about quality of life, immediately they are bringing GDP, gross domestic products, as one of the only indicator for showing the quality of life in this country. But this is not the case with majority of the developed countries in European Union, Ittihad al-Europi. So you see that even they put education, health, and many others inside that one as an, let's say, indicator. So education is showing actually the quality of life in this society, of individual inside the society. How many of the, let's say, individual inside the society, they already busy with a lot of, let's say, research and findings inside the universities and schools. So these are also one of the indicators to show the quality of, let's say, life inside the society. So we need to also introduce not only focusing on GDP, but on many other, let's say, indicators, including education, as it was last time. So there is a question, what's our current scenario? If you look at our universities, I'm sure you are respected professors inside the universities in Iraq, you can see that in majority of the case, based on our observation, we can find that we are still producing the traditional type of students, and they are not really matching the requirements of the 21st century, let's say, competences and requirements outside. That's why teacher-centered still is very dominant in majority of our universities. You will see that we have, unfortunately, some of the respected, let's say, faculty members, teachers, instructors inside our universities, they are just preparing a kind of slide full of the words, and they are just reading the slide for the student. I'm having 60 slides, 50 slides for the students. So this is the way that we want. And students are a passive learner inside our classes. They have absolutely no right to talk even one word. And we never ask these people, allow these people to express whatever they have. And we never allow them to show their actually skills and competences. And still, we are very much focusing on GPA, their grades, grade point average. So the mindset of our students still very much focusing on GPA. They are focusing on the marks. Do I get the high mark in that one? Do I get the low mark in that one? While if you look at the requirement internationally in the market, international markets, one of the requirements which is coming after 13 requirements, then it's GPA. They are asking of the grade of the student. So how about another 12 requirements, which is coming all about the skills, competences that we need our students to learn inside our classes. So we need to focus and change this mindset of our students in a way that they are focusing more on learning rather than just focusing on having grades, passing their exams, and finish. This material no longer is useful for me. So this is the current scenario we are having it inside our university, and that one definitely needs a lot. And one of the main elements inside this change, this reform, is the instructors, the teachers, the faculty members, whatever you name it here. Okay, so why we are focusing on this factor? Because we believe, and many of those studies believe, and many of those countries that they are leading in education, like, for example, Singapore, like Finland, like South Korea, many other countries, you will see that the teacher in this country, they are having a lot of respect. Government has a lot of appreciation for these people, for this community. So we need to bring this one back. Unfortunately, this is not the image for the teachers in Iraq and Kurdistan now. So we need to, the first one, we need to focus on the teachers. And in this reform, we need to have a strong teacher for the universities. And this strong teacher, of course, is coming through a lot of type of training, a lot of type of preparation, until we are reaching to the generations that they are ready to share the learning process, to enhance the learning process in this country. I just brought some of those quotes that I'm always sharing with my, let's say, colleagues here. One of them, why we are saying instructor is very important here in this reform of education system, because students always are admired by the great teachers. Students are always listening to the great teachers. They become like qa'id for these leaders, for this new generation. One of those, let's say, quote I got from one of the, let's say, writer, Client Smith is one of the writer. He was saying, tweeting that when he said, I've always saying that not only, the only reason that I am a writer is because I had a teacher in the 3rd grade who looked at my poem about clouds and said, you can be a writer when you grow up. So he is also adding that one, teachers, please do not underestimate what your word can do for your students. So it means, like last time we had teachers in this country, they were great, let's say at the great level and at the great respect inside the society. So we need to bring back this type of images for our professors, for our instructors, teachers inside our universities. So that one is coming back, of course, through having a generation of strong teachers equipped with a great background of 21st century skills and the methods that we are focusing on here. And as we said, education for sustainable development, this is the aim that we are looking for in this country when we are having a student equipped with the knowledge and skills for challenging all these changes happening here and there. Just look at, there are many examples that I can tell you. Unfortunately, this is not the case in our country. I was teaching this semester, this is just a brief example for you. I was teaching environmental engineering fundamental course for my students. The first day I was starting with asking them a question. Okay, how many of you knows what's GAP project? Believe me, out of 32 students, none of them knew what's GAP project, which is about 22 dams, 11 hydropowers that a country like Turkey, our neighboring country, already established on Tigris River. And that one, of course, will cut the whole water coming to Iraq, and by now almost by 50%, we can say. So just imagine the new generation, they have absolutely no idea on what's going on in their future. What is the future of this country? Okay, any other type of this element is the future of this country, but they didn't know anything about it. So that one saying our level of education, this guy came throughout 12 years of education in the basic and high school. They didn't know anything about these current challenges and situations that we are having globally and locally and regionally happening surrounding us. This is really a disaster. So in education for sustainable development, we do not want this type of student. We want the type of student that they are coming with a critical thinking, critical mind for thinking. They are coming, they need to read a lot. They need to know what's going on here and there. So they are having a mentality of learning process is for life, for the whole life. It's not only for this 3-4 years inside the university. So they need to know about many ideas behind sustainable development indeed. So it's very obvious, as I told you, we are having two different types of students. Unfortunately, the traditional type of student I can tell you now, this is just an estimation, but unfortunately for the current situation, majority of our graduates and the type of the students we have inside our universities in Iraq are traditional type of students. That's why they are suffering later. And a part of that one, we need to take this responsibility, actually, put this responsibility on our shoulder as an instructor, as an education system we have inside our universities, as the management, top management, and so on. They need to take this responsibility because students are there just whatever you want, you can guide them, you can direct them. So they are coming as a traditional one without any skill. So later they will suffer. They are always coming and protesting, and they are making noise here and there because they have absolutely no, let's say, skills for joining the private sector, multinational companies. They have no choice for going to abroad for studying, let's say. They do not have the skills. So they are coming and they are making a lot of issues for the government. Again, this is another issue that needs to be studied well here. But modern type of students, these are the type of student that we are very much focusing on enhancing their level of education in a way that can equipped with the 21st century skills and competencies. And that one, of course, as a result, once you have this type of student, you do not need to, government shouldn't be aware, let's say, worry about this type of student because they themselves can find a lot of type of jobs outside because they are skillful. They can join multinational companies, they can join private sectors, they can be an entrepreneur, having their own business inside the country, outside the country. So these are the type of the student that we really need to, let's say, produce for the future of this country. And briefly, you know that 21st century skills and competences, we are very much focusing on those type of students that they can solve the problem. This country now, our country is full of problems. Whatever areas you can find in education, health, economy, whatever you bring it, full of problems. So we need to actually bring a generation to solve this problem. We need these people to come out and here to see these are the challenges, and we need to participate in solving these issues. Believe me, in Suleimania, we are having many issues with wastewater coming from the city and directly mixing with the river in our city, in the south of the city. When I showed the cases to the student with the real video, I took my student to the site to show them what's going on here. Believe me, we had students, they were just 10 minutes driving far from this river. They didn't know about the cases. They said, is this really happening in Suleimania? Believe me, I never knew what's going on here. So this is the future. This river is the future of your country. So how you don't know that this, let's say, disaster is happening here. So we need to take out our students. There is a form, always we call it in pedagogy, formal to informal and formal. So formal is the one that we are having it inside the class with a lot of activity, but sometime we need to take out our student from the class to informal, to expose them to the real life cases and situation, to allow them to see by themselves and to think critically, having a brainstorming session just in order to find the solution for that one. So we need this one actually: creativity, critical thinking, professional communication skill, cooperation and leading skill, many others that these are considered as a 21st century skills and competences We need to introduce it inside our curriculum. And just briefly showing you the learning pyramid, we are having one of those studies that has been done by one of the national training laboratories, and they were focusing on knowledge retention rates by how many percent the way that we are teaching to the students, they can have a retention, the capacity of, let's say, saving that one inside their memories and reaching there. Just look at the first one, respected professors here, passive learning methods or passive teaching methods. Majority of our universities now, we are focusing on lecturing, the first one, which is only 5% retention rate, or will be actually, let's say, kept by our students. And why always we are saying, okay, our student doesn't learn anything. This generation knows nothing about these problems, because this is the way that we are teaching them. Either we are lecturing, reading, sometime probably when we go to the visual and audio, showing them some videos, some animation and those stuff, you see that the retention rate is increasing and getting better. But how about when we are allowing our students participatory teaching methods? This is the method that we are focusing very much here. When we are allowing your student to have a discussion session inside your classes, having a demonstration, having a poster presentation, discussion group, practicing by doing, learning by doing, many practical sites inside different laboratories, having a simulation for them, showing them virtual, let's say, labs we have here and there. How about giving them a kind of peer-to-peer studies when they are coming, students, alumni of your university, you are asking them back as a guest-based learning method, coming back to your classes, and they are explaining something with real life cases to your students. How about if you are bringing experts in your field? If your field, for example, is business management, there are many businessmen, you can bring them and they can talk for your student. There are many, let's say, issues, important issues inside the market that student cannot learn inside within this, let's say, teaching and lecturing period. So it's very important for us to focus on not only the lecturing during our classes, but a variety of methods that can help our students in learning process and enhancing the learning process. Beside that one, of course, when you go to the Bloom taxonomy, let's say categorization, when they are doing it for the first, second, third year and so on, you will see again, that one is also coming within reading. In majority of our cases, when we are focusing on defining, listing, describing, and so on, reading, and 20% of them, they can hear. Anyway, in this way, we can understand that inside our classes, always we are having different type of student with different type of skills. There are some students we have inside our classes, respected people here, you can see that they are a good listener. They can just listen. There are some others, they are visual learners. They have to see a figure, a table, a chart here, or a video, something, just in order to understand the topic. There are some other people, they are isolated inside your classes. They are feeling shy. They do not want to, but once you are allowing these people in one session to another, one event to another, you will see that these people, believe me, they have a lot of skills to show. But we never ever allow these people to come and express whatever they have. This is one of the issues that this guy, Benjamin Franklin, saying always, tell me and I forget. So tell me is showing the lecturing, the way that we are lecturing, tell me and I forget, the high let's say probability for forgetting. Teach me and I may remember. There is a possibility I may remember, but involve me and I learn. But when you allow me, this is the student-centered one, or the one we call it learning by doing. So when we allow our student to be a part of the learning, let's say, process, then inside the class, they are actively participating in many different activities. You will see that Yes, they learn. This is the lifelong learning. So you will see that this type of students, they will have that one in their mindset for longer period. And we have seen it inside our student, to be honest. So the international trend, as I told you, education for sustainable development, there is one fact we need to focus on it now, right now. This is the scenario for Iraqi universities, entire Iraqi universities. Outcome-based education, the one we call it outcome-based education. Our outcome now is the student. So majority of our universities in Iraq is a university, we call it taught universities. We are not really research-based university. You know, research-based university, I'm sure many of you are in United States, many other countries, you see that these type of universities providing millions of US dollars for doing a research, finding a solution for a problem. But none of the Iraqi governments now, I can say, if I'm not mistaken, you may just tell me that one, none of our universities, they are having this kind of budget, millions of US dollars for doing a research. So mainly our target here for now is individuals, preparing those individuals, which are our students, for outside challenges. So probably later, let's say 10 years from now, there should be some research centers in Iraq. Hopefully, we are going for research-based universities. So that time you can focus on research in one side, and the outcomes here will be a student and researcher. But for now, mainly we are taught universities. That's why it's very important to focus on those type of individuals that we are targeting here. And we are having this pedagogy methods to prepare this generation for the future challenges. Inside the outcome-based educations, they are focusing on many different methods, actually, universities. Project or problem-based learning is one of those type of methods, with many others. Actually, we have flipped classroom, when you are allowing your student to come. For example, you are giving them articles, let's say different findings, up-to-date findings. Then for the next session, they come back as a group. They will present it, discuss it among themselves. And there are many other methods, simulation-based, let's say guest-based presentation, drama, case study-based is very important. I am always focusing with my friends on, for now, focusing on PBL, problem-based learning or project-based learning, and case-based learning, because we have too many problems, too many cases here to allow our students, our young generation, to come up together and to work on that one, and plus many other methods that are needed inside our classes. So this is just few examples I want to show you very fast here. Virtual pharmacy, simulation-based, the one we said, inside our university here we have virtual pharmacy. This is a real pharmacy. We are putting our students in this place. This is one of the class, which is a pharmacy. So student is acting like a pharmacist. There are many different type of, let's say, drugs here. Some of them should be kept inside, let's say, a fridge. Some others should be on the roof. It's fine to be touched by the patient. Some others, no, is not allowed. So there are many cases that students come here in this virtual pharmacy. They are learning a real life, let's say, cases and explanations as a pharmacist, how they are dealing with the customer, with the patient, and how they are reading the vouchers coming from the physicians and doctors, like that. And also another simulation, we have anatomy lab table. So in this anatomy, you are having this table. You know that in majority of the cases, not really easy for us. Why we are using simulation? Because we cannot have all the time, let's say, a dead human body here or animals to bring it for the student. But in this anatomy lab, in many cases, is very user-friendly and can be used easily by the student to have all the, let's say, explanation on human anatomy and so on. There are many phantom labs we have here, or when you are students, they are directly working on those type of dolls, especially for dentistry, and they are working on that one, and you can see they can easily work with this finding and of course, by this way, they are learning more and more, preparing more for the future challenges as a dentist outside, because this is for the second year. So of course, in the starting from the third year and fourth year, then in the fourth year and fifth year, they start seeing patient, okay, real patients. So instead of that one, in the second and third year, they are working on this type of models. So they will be already prepared for working on the real patients later in our clinic. There are many others actually working and training all the time here. So why I said problem-based learning as one of those methods that I always recommend for respected, let's say, teachers inside the universities to use, because this is one of the methods that we are exactly, this is the authentic, the one we call it authentic learning, when we are exactly focusing on the problems we have, as I said, based on the, let's say, disciplines is changing, based on the majors is changing, but always is one of the very good way that in one PBL, any student can get many hidden skills of 21st century skills. Because I tried this one for the last 5 years. I was working in PBL with my students, and I always witnessed some of those points. One of them, students are learning, sees that one is you are giving a real problem, so they have to go outside, visit, investigate, observation doing, interviewing different stakeholders here and there. So multi-stages happening. They have to find the time schedule. Time management is very important because they are having a lot of stages to finish, and time management here is required to finish that one within, let's say, 6-7 weeks of in the semester. And also a leadership is required, decision making. They learn how to make a decision since they are having different list of options, which one getting priority over another, which type of solution now is applicable for this case versus another type of, let's say, options and solution we have. So within, just imagine if our students are coming up within 4 years, 5 years of their teaching inside the university, besides having a lot of presentations, case study, flipped classroom, other type methods that we just showed here, if they are doing another, let's say, 4 PBL, 4 project-based learning in 4 different courses in the 3rd and 4th year. Believe me, these students, you can see that by the end of the graduation, they are carrying this type of skills, this hidden skill that you cannot see it within, of course, the period of the teaching, but later you will see that this one reflecting in their characteristic while they are graduating and they are going for the future careers. So I'm always recommending doing this type of PBL, but because of the sign, I want to hit briefly assessment tools also when we are talking about this type of innovative pedagogy, because that one very much related to the type of the assessment tools that we are giving. That's why always we should focus on which type of assessment tool. Again, are we going to have the traditional way of assessing our students or the new modern way of assessing? Because here we should focus, majority of the universities, good universities are focusing more assessment for learning and less assessment of learning. So more assessment for learning, we are focusing on the type of the assessment that we call it continual assessment, formative assessment, the assessments that we are going to do it within complete semester. So it's not like the traditional way when we are having midterm exam, 1, 2, 3 quizzes, one final exam for 60%, 60 mark, pre-final exams, let's say test, midterm exam, quizzes for 40 and all 100. No, it's not like that. So we need to think more on having more of this type of assessment. And inside the assessment tool, when we are designing our assessment tool, we should always remember that, again, inside our students, our classes, we are having different type of student based on different type of skills. These people, they are having different type of skills. For example, this is a very good example. Just imagine these are our students inside our classes. We are saying for a fair selection here, we all need to have the same exam. Okay, this is the exam that we are doing in the final or midterm exam, or we are having a test. Okay, this is one form of exam that we are doing to our student. There are many type of students we have inside our classes that they are very good in communication. They can present a lot of things. Believe me, when you are giving them chance, you can't imagine what they have. You know, they are reading a lot. Just encourage them to read. There are some others coming to present a poster, just giving them a poster in an exhibition just to see how they are going to present it, or giving them a real articles, finding journal papers, just to allow them how they are coming to summarize that one and showing it to the people here. So they are having a lot of hidden skills, but unfortunately, in our case, we are always focusing on exam. Anyway, written exam here, this is, let's say the one is sitting here is me, and these are my students. My question here is, please climb that tree. Just go and climb this tree. So when you are having this type of question, the poor, let's say fish here, from the first minute, this one has died because there is no way for this fish to climb this tree. But look at the monkey. This is the, eat for this guy, okay? But look at the elephant, is suffering. But how about the bird? Amazing. So we are having different type of students with different type of skills. So we need to have a variety type of assessment tools. We shouldn't really focus only one form of assessment, which is exam, all the time written exam. And this type of summative exam that if student is missing this final exam, the guy is failing. So entire life is gone and he or she has to repeat the course and wasting a lot of time here and there. This is one of the issue and challenge we have. So assessment tool, we are focusing on seeing what's going on inside the student's head, what exactly they learned here. So there should be some methods for us to allow us how we are going to design our assessments here. 3 important questions is coming here actually. What we should consider when we are planning our assessment tool. Okay, I'm teaching a course here. Let's say any course we are having, it's microbiology, let's say in biology or medical biology science. So I'm having microbiology. So what should I consider when I'm coming to have a plan for my list of assessment tools? Shall I just put it quiz, test, midterm, final, and that's it? Or a laboratory session experimentation? That's it? How about others? So we should focus on in which year exactly we are teaching this course. Is it this course is a very basic in the first year, the second year, the third year, and so on. So this is very common for you that, and you are knowing that one, that based on Bloom taxonomy, we need to focus on which academic year, which type of active verbs we need to use it, reflecting the course learning outcomes of this course. If this course is the second year or the third year, let's say third year courses, there should be some applications here. It shouldn't be like the first year. Sometimes we have seen it, teachers in the third year, they are teaching the course like this course is in the first year. They are just giving, still a knowledge about a basic, a fundamentals, which is wrong. So this is one of the cases that we need to see if this is application in the third year. So even if you are putting a lot of written exam, probably that one will not help you in covering this type of course learning outcome by the assessment tool. How about if you are going for the cases? If they are in clinics, in medicine, in biology, they have to have laboratory experimentations, application. They have to go for clinical rotations. They have to go for hospitals to see the cases. So these are the scenarios that we need to change. And beside that one, rubrics, assessment rubric is required. Any student, let's say, Why the student out of 10 getting 8 out of 10? Why are the student getting 6 out of 10? So we as an instructor, we need to have a rubric dividing, distributing this 10 mark based on some criteria. And that one should be very clear for our students, just in order to understand. And this one should reflect again the course learning outcome here. And how do we know that students are learning? Of course, there are many different methods we need to apply it in our classes. I'm sure you are quite familiar with that one, asking different questions from the beginning just to see prior learning assessment, a diagnostic type of assessment, or sometimes we are having pop quiz, sometimes we are having by the end of the lectures, again, giving them some kind of, let's say, discussions. What do you think about this one? What do you think about that one? Just to check, or having a feedback on academia, another way that we can check on that one. And how do we know that what students have learned? This one is going very much for the summative assessment. In many different universities, they are exposing their students to the professional exams. Okay, in this cases, perhaps, for example, those people from engineering, perhaps they are going to fundamental engineering exam. They are going for those people who are taking occupational safety and health. They are going for taking different exam in this field. Many others are going in law, and others international politics. They are going for their own national or international exams to check whether they have learned this principle in that one or no. So there are many methods actually for assessing what exactly they have learned, these people. So I do not really want to waste your time on that one, on Bloom taxonomy. But again, meaningful assessment based on University of Texas, they are providing a very good feedback for the students. They allow them to know, they realize that whether they have learned that one or no, and providing the information at the same time for the instructor, for the teacher, for us to let us whether this way, students have learned and have fulfilled the course learning outcome or no. This is a very good way we can actually assess our students and become a very good feedback for us. I mean, I have taught this course, one of those courses for the last 5 years. You can see that every semester we are changing the type of the assessment tool based on the studies that we have done. For example, I personally observing when I put the test for 15 marks here, many of those students, okay, passed this one, but when I'm asking them those questions, in reality, they do not know. So that would mean simply they memorized. So this is not our aim here, and we do not want it. As we said, we want lifelong learning process here. So next semester, I am changing it to a project, to a discussion session, to a poster presentation, to a field trip, for example, allowing student, let's go for a site visit. So these are the way that giving us a feedback to modify our course syllabus and course book that we have. And beside that one, of course, helping the departments and the managements to focus more based on the needs of changing the curricula and so on. These are showing the meaningful of the assessment, having a meaningful assessment actually here. Briefly, 3 methods of assessment that internationally they are using. One of the missing point here is always we are having a diagnostic check for learning. The one we call it prior learning assessment. When we are having a student in any of our classes, first of all, we need to check, did this student learn that one in the previous level? For example, if you are teaching, for example, General Physics 2, for example. General Physics 2, it means the student already passed General Physics 1. So how do I know that people here now, they already digested very well the topics, the contents in General Physics 1? So I have to have a kind of diagnostic assessment, the one we call it prior learning assessment, just to see the level of my student. Perhaps some of them, they need some scaffolding method, some extra tutorial to bring them up to the level that now they are ready for General Physics 2, for example. So this is one of the methods that are missing in many of our actually teaching methods, but it's very much recommended to be applied. And formative assessment is the second one. The one I told you now is the continuous way of assessing, continuous assessment throughout the semester. We need to have a variety type of assessment, not only focusing on one midterm, one final exam, summative, that's it, or one format of exam, which is a written exam. As I told you, there are many students with different backgrounds, different capacity we are having inside our classes. If those students that they are having a good capacity in memorization, so it means these guys are very much, let's say, favoring written exam because they are just memorizing and writing down. But there are many type of students we have, they can share their ideas, they can express whatever they have. They are having a lot of talents, okay, a lot of skills, but once they come to the written exam, probably they are not very much good with this type of questions. List, for example, that one, true, false, link, fill the blank. I don't know, this type of traditional questions we have here and there. So it's very much recommended again to have a continuous type of assessment throughout the semester. How about this week? If we are having, let's say after finishing 2 weeks, there should be, let's say, a kind of discussion session. Okay, we finished 2 weeks. I'm giving you this textbook here. Just read this chapter. I'm giving you this paper in this journal, which is published by X author here. Just go and read. We will come back and we will discuss it. Each group should have this point to discuss about it. So in this way, we are encouraging our students to learn more, to participate more, even to challenge the instructors. By that time, we cannot have no more traditional teachers actually inside our classes, because if you are not updating yourself, then students by this time, of course, they have too many findings, too many up-to-date knowledge on these cases. So that one will be actually a trouble for the instructors here and there. And the last one will be the summative assessment for learning, which is in majority of the cases we are having in this country as a final exam, okay? But in many other cases, perhaps the student can go for final projects. You are given a semester project, they can done it step by step with a follow-up of the teacher. Every 2 weeks, they have to submit their progress report. They have to come and discuss with the teachers here and there, so they can do a project. For example, the guys in computer science. So there should be a lot of program for computer application. Let's say they are taking programming, okay? Programming, a course in programming. So these guys, by the end of this course, I mean, in majority of the case, I cannot find a use for having a final exam, written exam for this case. Well, this one has to be done on a computer. This is a programming. So they have to write programs. You should give them a project to work on that one. They should come with different stage of presentations inside the class, outside the class, poster presentations, visiting different companies here and there to see how this program is applicable later in the real life. So these are the type of the assessments that we are really focusing on it. And this is just a brief, let's say, last slide. Classical way of teaching, as we said, the majority of the cases going in this way. In our universities, 60 for final, 40 for the pre-final assessment. Sometimes only we have few quiz, test, or assignments, or a written assignment, or if given a project for the student that they are going to copy and paste here and there. Even unfortunately, in some cases nowadays, they can go and buying it inside the market in different centers. So these are a problem. Instead of that one, we may go for the modern way, a formative way, having a lot of cases, a lot of class discussions, PBL, problem-based learning, a lot of activities, drama, having guests, going to the field trip, peer-to-peer, a workplace assessment. You are giving the student a chance to go to the workplaces, real workplaces, like internship programs and so on. And beside that one, of course, that one, majority of the mark here, 70% of that one will go for this formative, and 30 will remain for the summative, which is either a final presentation or exam, written exam, in that time, of course, shouldn't be a problem in this way. And in fact, in our university, we have found it very useful for our student in this way for the last few years. And I hope I could, let's say, share whatever I wanted here. And again, thank you very much for listening. And it's an honor having you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tuana, for this, in fact, very beneficial presentation with a lot of quantity of information, modern information regarding the the innovative pedagogy, methods of teaching, and also assessment tools. Let us start the questions and comments. Let me start with Professor Jalal Muhammad Jalil. Yes, Dr. Jalal. And you can use Arabic or English. Let me switch my language to encourage you for more comments. براحتكم أعزائي. ممكن تستعملون اللغة العربية أو الإنجليزية. أعتقد أستاذ توانا يعني يفهم اللغة العربية وممكن يجاوب أيضا باللغة العربية. أستاذ جلال تفضل دكتور جلال.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
شكرا على المحاضرة اللطيفة هاي. بالحقيقة أنا عندي تجربة طويلة ويا PBL. يعني رحنا إلى جامعة ميزوري قبل 10 سنوات 2011 و2013، فأخذنا ورك شوب هناك وتعلمنا PBL ورجعنا متحمسين للموضوع، وسوينا مشاريع مع منظمة آيركس في أربيل، جبنا جماعة ميزوري في أربيل ودربنا 30 واحد من الجامعة التكنولوجية، وكل واحد من ال30 سوى ورك شوب داخل القسم مالته. يعني تقريبا صار 60% من الستاف مال الجامعة التكنولوجية عندهم معلومات وافية عن PBL. بعد هذا قمت أجمع النشاطات، يعني أي واحد يسوي PBL يدز لي تفاصيل كاملة عن الصور والترتيبات اللي سواها. المشكلة اللي واجهناها إنه هذا الحماس يعني بدأ شوية شوية ينقص مع السنوات. كان بالبداية ب 2011 يعني أخذت الطلاب أني إلى تجربة حية وجو منظمة آيركس الأمريكية وأخذوا صور وفيديو عن العملية. المشكلة عندنا إنه ماكو سبورت، يعني في الادمنستريشن سواء كان عميد أو رئيس جامعة مو انترس بالشيء اللي تسويه، فصار الموضوع شخصي. الشيء الشخصي طبعا بحماس، لكن مع السنوات شوية شوية يقل إلى أن يعني بالسنوات الأخيرة يمكن أني وأعداد جدا قليلة من الجامعة مستمرين على PBL، وخاصة بعد التجربة الإلكترونية اللي بالحقيقة يعني ضعفت PBL بشكل كبير. ليش؟ لأن أنا بالحقيقة يعني I don't trust the students outside the class. يعني PBL I will do it inside the class in front of my eyes, because outside only one work and the other are just like a passenger. They're not doing any work. So the problem is the enthusiasm are decreasing and dying with the time. Now at the present, maybe only me and only few maybe 1 to 10 maybe they keep doing the PBL with their students. So I know our problem is there is no support from the administration and nobody cares what are you doing in your class. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Jalal. Shukran, Dr. Jalal. Mr. Tuana, if you have any comment on the speech?
Thank you very much, Dr. Jalal. Alhamdulillah, we are still having you and in this university that you can apply PBL. And I 100% I agree with you that yes, that one needs a lot of support from the top management of the university, from Ministry of Higher Education. They need to believe and trust in this type of teaching methods and facilitating, let's say, the universities with this type of equipments. And beside that one, but still, since we are knowing the importance of that one, as you mentioned, you have been trained in the United States and coming back, since you have the idea, you can still apply it, even if it's individually happening in your courses. I'm sure many students will learn a lot from the PBLs that we are applying inside our classes. So I know individually is very difficult to be done, but still, I mean, I'm telling based on my experience and Dr. Ahmed Ghani is here to support me in that one. In our university, when we started that one, believe me, I was alone, the first one who did this kind of PBL, because I have been trained and studied during my master on that one. So I knew the importance of PBL. So when I introduced to my, let's say, courses and students, later I found that this one is working very well. Then we started training our respected teachers in our university, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now, alhamdulillah, we are having a bunch of people to believe in the importance of this innovative pedagogy, and they're applying it.
Thank you, Doctor. Just one note, the students are very happy in the class. Actually, they are very busy from the first moment to the last moment. They said, we are busy in the class, but we are work. So actually, the students are very happy with this experiment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Jalal. Yes, I can add also a comment to the comment of Mr. Tuwana, that if the PBL of any methods of teaching is not a part of the process adopted by the institution, the department, or the college, I think just individual initiative is not enough to improve our education system. Okay, let me also hear from another professor, if any comment, or Dr. Khalil, I think you raise your hand or change your mind. Yeah, Dr. Khalil.
Well, thank you very much. Really, we appreciate this webinar. I would like to thank all of you, especially Dr. Ziad, Dr. Ali, and many thanks to Tuwana for your demonstration. Really, it's very impressive today. This subject really, Dr. جلال يعني سبقني في الحديث عن تجربة جامعة تكنولوجية جامعة هندسية، فهي قريبة في الحقيقة في يعني تستخدم هذه التولز مثل ما تفضل الدكتور جلال. يعني هذا الموضوع في الاختصاصات طبعا هو بدأ حسب ما يعني حسب ما اطلعت على الموضوع بشكل كبير، بدأ في الكليات الطبية يعني في جانب الاختصاصات الطبية، لكن ممكن تطبيقه حتى في كل الاختصاصات حسب ما شفت. هناك كثير من الأمور. أنا أتصور المشكلة اللي يعني دائما بالموضوع ككل هو يعني to transfer from يعني خلينا نسميها spoon feeding to this modern method. I think we need many things. We have to prepare many things. A lot of things must be changed. يعني one of them is our teachers or our faculties has to know what is this the philosophy of this modern methods. أعتقد لنجاح أي موضوع يجب أن لا يكون فقط individually. يعني دائما إحنا عندما يأتي يعني شيء من الجهات التوب مانجمنت خلينا نسميها الليدرز، سواء من الوزارة أو من الجهات اللي تقوم العملية التعليمية، لما يكون هناك هذه البنفتس اللي تفضلت بها أستاذ توانا، اللي هي حقيقة يعني أنت تخلق أيضا باحثين تقريبا، يعني تخلق باحثين اللي هم يعني راح بالنتيجة النهائية أنت مو فقط تخرج وتعطيهم معلومات، وإنما هذول أيضا حيكونوا قادة للباحثين. مثل ما تفضلت احنا عندنا مشكلة في الرانكينج، مشكلة في يعني في جانب البحث العلمي، هذول يكونوا قادة في البحوث مستقبلا. لكن أنا أعتقد حتى ننجح بهذا الموضوع، وأنا شفت كثير من زملائي يعني أور كوليك اللي هم استخدموا هذا الأسلوب، نجاحاته في الصفوف الأولى يكاد يكون ضعيف لسبب بسيط يعني جدا، أنه طلابنا في المراحل الأولى يعني بالذات، ما أعرف إذا أنت recommended أنه to apply this in the first year regarding أنه the student in the first year they don't have sufficient knowledge of the basic، يعني بعدهم في بداية التعلم ما عندهم ذاك النضج والأفق الواسع حتى يبدأ بعملية البحث والنقاشات. إحنا نريد، لكن إحنا هو أصلاً يعني إذا في البداية هو ما عنده يعني الصف الأول لا يمكن أن تبدأ وتحقق نجاحات. أنا أتصور إذا نصير سيلكشن في بداية السنوات الأولى في بعض المواضيع، وبعدين نصعد بشكل أكثر في الصفوف الأخرى، مثل ما تفضلت حضرتك أعتقد في الصف الثالث والرابع يكون الأمور ناضجة. بس بنفس الوقت أنا أتصور يعني أنه our faculty يعني يتعلمون هذا الموضوع، لأن أنا شفت كثيرين حقيقة يضع هذه اللافتة وهذا الموضوع هو مهم ولازم ننتقل إلى المودرن، لكن هذا كله فقط شوف البعض من عنده يرجع مرتلخ يسوي يرجع change to the traditional method. بس اكو هو يعني كبير انه هذا الموضوع يطبق ان شاء الله، وفعلا موضوع مهم. شكرا جزيلا اني على هذا الديمونستريشن، شكرا جزيلا. Thank you very much.
شكرا دكتور خليل. Any comment, Mr. Tuana, about this?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Khalil. You are totally right. Whatever you said, all right, especially about the challenges we have, and also for the first year student, usually in these cases, they need probably, they are just coming to the university, they need to learn the basic, the fundamental, and probably in this case, there are many other methods that we can apply to our students, like having a lot of flipped classroom, having a lot of, let's say, drama-based learning. It depends on the actually, let's say, major. That's why I cannot say which way probably is better here. But in most of the cases, we are encouraging our staff to go for this type of methods, especially for PBL and case-based. And those type of simulation are going to be introduced in the last stage, when in the junior and let's say senior level of the student. In this case, they can learn better since they have previous ideas and knowledge about their major. Thank you very much, Dr. Khalil.
Thank you, Mr. Tuana. Dr. Nabil, yes, go on. Dr. Nabil, تفضل سؤالك أو تعليقك.
السلام عليكم. شكرا دكتور علي، وشكرا للسيد توانا على هذا البرزنتيشن الرائع. حقيقة I want to add something here, and I have also a question. First, my name is Nabil, Dr. Nabil Shakir from the University of Anbar. So I want to add something for the indirect assessment. I try to like these like techniques of assessment like homework, PBL, or other techniques like survey or some other stuff. The problem is with the system, and especially the grading system. The grading system would not allow you to give more than like 40 or 50 cumulative grade. We call it SAI Sanawi. So SAI is no more in the base cases, no more than like 40 or 50. So the students know already that you will not like give them more than, you will not like grade them on their work, like homework or survey or other stuff. They will not care about that. So this is the problem. I think we need to change the system so you don't put a lot of pressure on the student on the final grade. So you give the final grade like 40 or 30 in the best case, and then you give like Sa'i Sanawi or like cumulative grade during the course, or we call it the coursework. You give it like 60 or 70. In this case, you can like lead the student to take care more about the coursework. So this is my note. My question for Mr. Tuana about the assessment, the indirect assessment. You know, we have many tools for direct assessment. Let's switch to the assessment of the outcomes. Let's say the national criteria. So if we want to talk about the assessment, indirect assessment, should we take the average for all the tools? Let's say we have like student survey, faculty survey, we have senior exit survey. Should we take the average for all of these? I'm not talking about the student in class. I'm talking about the assessment of the outcomes. And thank you so much in advance.
Thank you, Dr. Nabil. And let me call our education system as exam or final exam-based education system, I think, which does not have a similar one maybe in other countries. Okay, Mr. Tuana, if you can answer or comment on the important notes of Dr. Nabil.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Nabil. Yes, you are right regarding your notes. unfortunately, that one, of course, needs a decision from the Ministry of Higher Education to, let's say, encourage universities to go for this type of, let's say, assessments, not only focusing on Sa'i Sanawi and, let's say, 50-50. And as you said, in majority of our universities, we are still having 40 for pre-final and 60 for final exam. Definitely students, when they know that 60 will go for the final exam, they do not care about this type of, let's say, homeworks, assignments, activities that we are going to give to these people. This is exactly needing a very brave decision from the Ministry of Higher Education to tell the universities to follow the, let's say, modern way of assessment. Regarding your questions for assessing the faculty performance, if I'm not mistaken, that's let's say, the course learning outcomes, how they are fulfilling that one. Of course, there are many, let's say, different methods for doing that one. One of those methods, probably, we can say, exposing your students to the, as we say, the one they call it exit exam. Perhaps this is one of the very important methods. When your students are finishing some of those courses, they can attend one of those, let's say, exams. As we said, for engineering, for example, we are having fundamental engineering exams. So another methods, they are talking about grade analysis. Okay, grade analysis probably. However, we do not that much focusing on grades to tell, okay, the average of the students are passing in that one. It means yes, I mean, they fulfilled this type of course learning outcome. But in majority of the cases, probably there should be a third party. That's why we are having this accreditation agencies, the importance of accreditation agencies to evaluate based on the program learning outcomes they have. They can, let's say, come and assess all the courses, all the programs that you are having inside the university, and all the type of assessment tools. But for the individual courses, you may see that I mean, there are many different ways. We are trying to do that one. For example, if I'm having a PBL, a project based in my course, I do not want to do the, let's say, final assessment for my students alone. I am going to ask for some external evaluators to come with me. So perhaps these external evaluators are inside my university or from another universities. They are coming. I did personally in this way for some of the courses last time for the PBL. They came, and based on the findings, of course, they do not know these students, they do not know, but they are focusing on the findings of this project. And of course, I already designed that this PBL will cover one or two of the course learning outcome. So once these people agreed or disagreed in this case, that one will be a very good feedback for me that, yes, this one covered, fulfilled this type of course learning outcome. But as I told you, I mean, I personally, if you look at my syllabus, course syllabus for one of those courses, probably I changed several times some of those assessment tools. I changed, for example, as I said, a test to a field trip. Why I did that? When I found when I'm giving a test, yes, some of the students are doing it very well, but they are just memorizing. But when we are going to the field for the real situations, believe me, you can see that. I mean, because of the time, I don't want to take your time that much, but we had students when they came to the site, for example, for one of the company, whatever we explained in the PBL, believe me, they asked a lot of critical questions to the site engineers, and he was just surprised. He was just like saying, wow, I mean, these questions coming from the student. So by these ways, you are having your own observation on these cases, plus the, as we said, third-party accreditation agencies and external evaluators to help and to see whether the course learning outcome fulfilled or not. I hope that Dr. Nabil, I could answer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Tuana. And I agree with you regarding the point of changing the assessment tools and the methods of teaching and learning, because this is my opinion. I don't know if my colleagues now attending with us in this wonderful meeting, agree with me or not. This year, when we're starting again face-to-face teaching and the ordinary life and leaving the lockdown and the pandemic situation, I found something in my students. I don't know what happened with you. Let me call them low motivation students. For example, they are not writing from the whiteboard. They're just sitting and listening. Their activities inside the class and outside the class very slow. Their interest in the learning is also not effective in their studying life. I think now we should think in this problem. Maybe the virtual education used in the past 2 years affected the way or the mindset of their students, especially in the country like Iraq, where, for example, a lot of graduates, they didn't work after graduation, maybe several years or maybe more than that. So for this, I call them low motivation students, and we should think really about this problem to attract them again to the engineering profession. So what is your comment, Mr. Tuana, first? And let me also hear about this point from our colleagues.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dr. Ali. We had the same actually experience in our university. However, I can say during the pandemic, we were one of those universities that successfully could run the electronic e-learning system. But beside that one, you could see our students were very much demotivated when they came back to the face-to-face. As you said, you could feel it and realize that they are not the students that before the pandemic. I mean, when we gave them any kind of activities, assessments, so you could see that, as you mentioned, they are not really very much, caring about this type of assignment. Probably during the pandemic, they could easily find it here and there, a project copy and pasting. So yes, that one, to be honest, internationally is, many students, many universities were facing these cases. I was checking one of those universities that they had MOU with us in Edith Cowan University in Australia. I was checking their platform to see the students' comment. Believe me, Dr. Ali, many of the students were really not happy with however, Australia is a developed country with a lot of facilities, but still they were not really happy with the online and those virtual learning scenes, especially for some of those majors that they need to have hands-on the, projects in laboratory, medicine, engineering, and applied science. You could see that one actually.
Yes, yeah. For this, I really agree with you 100% about the field trip, for example, or use some funny ways to attract the students again to study engineering. Yes, Dr. Ziad, I think you want to.
Do I have a chance?
Yeah.
I was the last one.
You have the big chance, yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Tuana, you already talked about what I'm going to ask you about, but I want you to stress and focus more on this. Please, if you describe how many students a class that apply PBL can be, number of students, this is the first. Second, are they asked to prepare before the session? What time span do you give them for preparation? Do you aid them in this preparation, references or guidance? And then when they come to the result, how they present it on paper, reports, PowerPoint, oral, and how long this will take for their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ziad, for the nice question. Actually, regarding the PBL, of course, we are mainly having classes from, you can say, starting between 25 to 30 students. Let's take it as an average for our class size. In this cases, we mainly having like 6 groups inside our classes. We are dividing them to 6 groups. These are the cases that always repeating with me in this scenario. And regarding the PBL, I am, in majority of the cases, I am going to, let's say, select the local issues and problems related to the course that I am teaching, okay, that they are available inside the local community, inside the city, inside the town, let's say. So by this way, we are allowing our student to, again, focus and visit. Of course, that one needs a follow-up. That's why I am, let's say, usually we are introducing, if you are a semester-based, let's say, or if you are yearly based, that one will be different. If we are a semester based, let's say we are having 2 semesters per year, fall and spring. So within this semester, we are having around 15 weeks. Okay, in this 15 weeks, the first 4 weeks, usually students need to have the class, need to understand the basic, the fundamentals, again, recalling them some of the instructions from the previous years about these cases. So they need to have, let's say, sessions before starting the PBL, introducing the PBL to them. So I personally give them 4 weeks explanation about many different things related to this topic. Then we are going to give them the PBL. And I usually, the time span for that one will be 8 weeks in my cases, so until week 12, starting from week 5 to week 12. So in this way, every 2 weeks, we are giving a chance to the students to come together inside the class. What's the plan, what they are going to do. So within 4 weeks, after finishing 4 weeks, they are going to have the first presentation inside the class, and they are sharing their findings, let's say not their findings, their literature review. I encourage them to go for literature review, for discussing the problem statements, what are the sub-questions they have here, and also the schedule, the timelines that they are going to, which type of activities within the next 4 weeks they are going to do it. So they have to show it in the schedule, in the timeline. And beside that one, of course, we are asking them who are the stakeholders and the methodology of this project, which way you want to fulfill the findings and the results in these cases. So they need to show it. And every 2 weeks, as I said, they have a session for 10 minutes inside the class after the classes to discuss that one with each other and to tell us what are the progresses. If there is any problem, sometimes the students probably need a support letter. They are visiting different stakeholders. They need a support letter from us. We are going to provide them with that one. Then for the next 4 weeks, they are going to have the schedule for going to these different places, taking the data, site observation, taking pictures, and like that. It depends on the actually subject and the nature of the subject. So when they come back in the last week, of course, before that one, I always give them a chance again to show the real findings that they have and also what exactly they need to add or remove in these cases. So the last day for the presentation, as I said, I may do it individually, but in majority of the cases, I recommend to have the external evaluators to come with me to look at it, what are the steps that the student took it to reach to the final findings and how they are going to interpret their findings. And of course, for that one, I have a rubrics. I'm always sharing the rubrics with the evaluators. And before starting any PBL, I am telling the students about the rubrics. These are the grades that you are distributed already. Let's say 1 PBL out of 15 or 20 marks. So these are the rubrics for all the PBL is going to be distributed. So by this way, student already knows what's going on, in which level they have to work. And there are many other ways that you can see probably 1 or 2 students inside the group, they are not participating well. So always, as an instructor, we are having methods, ways to find that who were very active, who were not, by asking some critical questions to them. So you'll see that the people who were not participated actively, they have no answer for these questions. I hope Professor Ziad was clear that one for you.
Yes, thank you very much. Can I ask, please, how many problems per semester per course on average, please?
I usually, for example, let me, in one of my courses, I'm teaching health and safety, occupational safety and health. In this case, the problem statements will be, let's say, one problem statement that I'm giving to the whole class, but my aim for that one, for each group, I'm giving different, let's say, we are making comparison between, let's say, in this case, for the safety policy in the construction companies, between the local and multinational companies. So in this case, probably we are having many local companies and we are having some of the international companies. So I want to make this comparative. This is one example, actually, comparative study between the local in terms of safety application, multinational in terms of safety applications, and the problem statement will be one, for example, safety application in local and multinational companies. But the problem statement, why majority of the local companies are not applying safety policy. So this is the main question. So you will see that each group out of this problem statement, they are going to look for one area. Probably one of them, they have no idea about safety policy. Another one, they are saying there is no governmental, let's say, law on safety, and there is no safety, let's say, law for enforcing safety on those companies. And another one are looking for probably cost-effective analysis, because if they are applying safety, probably they need to, pay some money for all the facilities like PPE, personal protective equipments, and many others, engineering, let's say, protection, and so on. So in these cases, each group will work on each, let's say, cases that they are looking for.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Ali, shall I go to the final statement?
Let me ask also the attendees if any comment. أحد أعزائي هناك تعليق أو سؤال قبل أن نختم هذه الندوة الافتراضية؟ نعم، يبدو ليس هناك شيء. إن شاء الله كانت مفيدة. دكتور زياد، تفضل الكلمة الأخيرة توجهها للحضور أيضا وللي يسمعنا. إن شاء الله احنا راح نبث هذه المحاضرة على قناة المجلس على اليوتيوب، فإن شاء الله أيضا هتكون هذه المعلومات مفيدة لكل من راح يسمع هذه المحاضرة له هذا النقاش اللطيف بعد المحاضرة إن شاء الله.
شكرا جزيلا. On behalf of the Iraqi Council of Accreditation for Engineering Education, I would like to express my sincere thanks to Mr. Tuana for this impressive presentation. I wish him continual success in his profession and life. I would also like to thank all the participants, Dr. Zaidoun, Dr. Zainab, Dr. Sally, Dr. Ahmad, Dr. Hamid, Dr. Haidar, again Dr. Haidar, another one, Dr. Ahmed, another Dr. Ahmed, Dr. Firaz, Dr. Nabil, Dr. Nasir, Dr. Farid, Dr. Luma, Dr. Hadi, and Dr. Rahman. Thanks for all, and I wish you all success. And it's for you now, Dr. Ali.
شكرا دكتور، وانا اضيف دكتور رغد ايضا، دكتوره سالي، يعني الحقيقه حضور متابعين دائما هم النشاطات المجلس والمحاضرات المختلفه. So finally, Mr. Tuana, thank you very much for this valuable presentation, and see you soon again, maybe in Kumar University or any Iraqi university.
Inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for all attendees, and goodbye. See you later. Keep healthy in this sandstorm. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you so much.
إلى اللقاء إن شاء الله.
عليكم السلام.